4 months after a woman died while visiting an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison, we've learned her death is now deemed a homicide.
In the early morning hours of November 13th, 2024, an inmate informed prison officers that his wife had passed out in the apartment-like facility they were in during a conjugal visit. She was later pronounced deceased at 10:51 a.m. Since the time of her death, authorities have been awaiting the results of her autopsy, and the results revealed that 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles was murdered, and her story deserves to be written and told. Welcome to Crime She Wrote. Stephanie Dowles, affectionately known to her family and friends as Stevie D, was a loving wife, mother, and grandmother. She was a hairstylist and business owner from California. She was full of life and enjoyed spending time with family and friends.
Hi, I'm here at the Playboy Jazz Festival. I'm the first one of all my clan to arrive. Yep, nobody's here yet. I got a great seat. I'm excited, and I'll be checking in a little later.
She was a huge fan of the Rams and was an advocate for prison reform. She married an inmate who is serving 4 life sentences at Mule Creek State Prison in California, and it was at that very prison where she met her untimely death.
4 months after a woman died while visiting an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison, we've learned her death is now deemed a homicide.
The cause of her death has been ruled a homicide by strangulation.
We've been following this story for several months, waiting to hear from the coroner, all after learning 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles from the Los Angeles area died at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione on November 13th at about 2 in the morning. Her family tells us she was visiting her husband, 54-year-old David Brinson. He's been in prison since 1994, and court records show a jury convicted Brinson of 4 counts of murder, and he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. But he was allowed family visits. The CDCR website tells us those happen in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds and can last about 30 to 40 hours. So it was during one of those visits that Dowles died. We know she was a hairstylist and a small business owner, and she was very close with her community in Southern California. So now, while the coroner has ruled Dowles' death a homicide, the prison says its investigation is still ongoing, and the district attorney's office tells us it has not filed charges against anyone because it's still waiting on that criminal investigation to be completed.
And according to NBC News, she is the second woman to be murdered by strangulation at Mule Creek State Prison in California in 2024.
A woman was killed while visiting a prison.
Another woman, 62-year-old Stephanie Dowles, was killed there back in November, according to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The department's saying that that was the second visitor to die in that same prison in the same year. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo. Stephen, I'm not sure if I had that right. So these are 2 women, different occasions, both visiting, and both end up dead?
Yeah, it is a tragic situation for the families of both of these women. One, Tanya Thomas, was visiting last July with her domestic partner, and she ended up dying, and her partner charged for that murder. It is a different story right now for Stephanie Dowles, who you're seeing there on the left side of your screen. She actually died last November, but only in the past few days have we heard from the county involved there, the sheriff's department, saying that this is a homicide, deeply upsetting to her family. The prison there allows these overnight visits to happen with close family members of some of their inmates. When she was staying with her husband, David Brinson, last November, she she lost consciousness. He called the corrections officers to this apartment unit type facility that they have there for these visitations, told them that she was not responsive. They called 911. Sadly, she died. Now the sheriff's office is calling this a homicide, and it is shocking that this is the second one in such a short amount of time, causing a lot of people, including Dowell's family, to ask how this could have happened.
Her family spoke out in a recent interview with concerns and questions as to why a man serving 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole is allowed to have conjugal visits in the prison.
We spoke with the victim's family, and they're demanding answers. They want to know why an inmate with such a violent history like this was allowed to have unsupervised visits in the first place.
The most giving, kind-hearted person.
62-year-old Stephanie Dowells was always trying to help others, her mother, Ovita Wilson, says.
I would often tell my sweetheart, you can't save the world.
Dowells was a mother herself to 2 sons, grandmother to 6. She was a hairstylist and a small business owner in the Los Angeles area, known to her family as Stevie. We spoke to them on Zoom.
Stevie was literally the glue that held the family together,
making her loss all the more difficult.
We were just devastated.
Dowells died during an overnight visit with an inmate at Mule Creek State Prison in Ione just before 3 a.m. last November. Now, 4 months later, the Amador County coroner confirmed her family's fears, finding the death was a homicide. The coroner says she was strangled.
How could they just, let this happen and just don't get it?
Armand Torres says the prison should be held accountable. He says his mom was visiting her husband, David Brinson, there.
They would read the Bible together. He was in school in there because she was pushing him to try to be this better person.
But Brinson is serving 4 consecutive life terms with a 20-year determinate sentence on top of that, without the possibility of parole, all after his 1993 conviction of 4 murders.
My mom was just left alone, and she, called for help, I'm sure, and there's nothing she could do.
Officials say the criminal investigation is still underway, so as of now, no one's been charged with Dowell's murder. But it happened during a family visit, which the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation website describes as a visit in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds that can last approximately 30 to 40 hours. It was just after 2 a.m. on November 13th when CDCR says Brinson used the phone in that apartment-like facility to tell officers his wife had passed out.
Given the history that this guy has already, we kind of just, wanted to know, how is it even, possible for them to be unsupervised?
The CDCR website shows inmates blocked from those privileges are limited to those on death row, those convicted of sex offenses, those going through the reception process upon arrival to a prison, or anyone under disciplinary restrictions. There's no mention of multiple murder convictions.
Do you think that policy should change moving forward?
It has to. There has to be something has to be done, because it's not fair.
CDCR says inmates have to meet strict criteria for these family visits, like sustained good behavior, for example. And they say the visits are meant to support family connection and rehabilitation. And Dowell's family did say that she had visited Brinson several times before this, and those visits seem to have gone well. So they say at the time they didn't really think much of it, like they now believe they probably should have.
Now let's get into the details of this case. We have a beautiful woman full of life who fell in love with a violent criminal who she later married and arranged conjugal visits with on several occasions in the prison. Her family stated she was in love with him and she tried to change him to be a better person. All the love and support she showed him wasn't enough to change his murderous behavior. Some may ask, how could a woman that had her whole life ahead of her fall in love with a murderer that will never live a normal life in society? He has not been charged with her murder because authorities were awaiting the autopsy results that were revealed a few days ago. Regardless of how many people may judge her decision to marry him, she didn't deserve to lose her life in this manner. And I pray that her family gets the justice that they deserve. I offer my sincere condolences and prayers to the family and friends of Stephanie Dowell. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Let me know your thoughts on this story in the comments section below. And before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, Crime Mob, stay safe out there and always watch your surroundings. And I'll see you in the next video.